Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we help you unlock your potential freedom through land investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Hey everyone, this is episode 149 of the Real Estate Investing Podcast discussing who are the end buyers when we flip land. I'm your host, Daniel Apke, joined by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. Before we get into the show, let's go over a question from one of our featured Discord members. Today's question is from Eli. Eli asked, how do you suggest implementing texting into my business, if at all? I've been doing mail successfully for 12 months, sending about 7,000 mailers per month.
Good question, Eli. And we obviously, Dan, or you just kind of created that texting not just created, but it took a lot of time and implementation. But we just released a texting program within our boot camp or any other offers. It's within our course essentially. So Eli obviously has access to that for being a member. So I'm trying to think, Dan, and I'm kind of in the middle of this. I don't think like adding follow up. I wouldn't do cold texting, Eli. So I wouldn't just start sending text messages to people you've never talked to. I do think there is something. I wouldn't be against you adding follow up texting. So a week before the closing date or a week after they got their mail, received their mail, sending them a text like, did you get that offer? That's what I would probably do. And don't do it on every mailer, in my opinion, because it's going to bog down some of your systems. And what you are doing is working. That's why I'm just 5% of what you're like. Just do not overload your systems with texting and stuff, because what you are doing is working successfully from the sounds of it. And knowing you, I know you're making good money doing that. So just maybe one out of every three mailers do a text follow up. It's not going to cost that much money. You're still going to make money on the mail. The mail will still work as is. It's just going to give you some more leads from those mailers.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game, Ron. It gets you in front of more potential sellers. Like anything we can do to get in front of more potential sellers efficiently is what we're looking to do. And since you're doing mail successfully, 7,000 a month, making money, full-time land flipper, implement this as long if you want more leads and want more opportunities. I assume you do if you're continuing to send mail. But this is another way to get more leads, get people on the phone, negotiate, and get under market value land under contract. And that's what we do. We buy under market value land, and then everything after that kind of works for itself. And texting is another great way to get under market value land under contract, Ron. But other than that, Ron, let's get into the show. Today's topic: how and who do we sell a piece of raw vacant rural land to? And this kind of struck me, Ron, because I was on the market bigger pockets the other week, and they were kind of shocked with, and I remember when I first started this business model too, they were shocked with like there actually being raw or just vacant rural land buyers out there. Like who's going to buy this piece of property that's next to nothing, literally in the middle of nowhere? Is there demand for that? And I remember when we first started, that was one of my main objections with the business model. I think at first I was like, are we going to be able to sell this? Are there actual, vacant land buyers out there looking for it? And that's kind of why this topic, Ron, struck me.
Yeah, this is probably like the number one question I get in consultations. So we do 15-minute consultations with people interested in the course, interested in getting started. And the number one question is like, what do I do if I get stuck with a property? Who's going to buy my land? So yeah, I like this topic a lot because I get asked so much, and I'm sure a lot of you listening are kind of asking the same thing. And the reality is, Dan, like not every county in the country, like you're just going to get blown up with buyers. But if you list for a right price, you will. And there are rural counties, 2, 3 counties removed, 3 hours from big cities, where people are fighting over pieces of land because there's so little on the market. The reality of what COVID did, Dan, to our society in general is it moved people away, or it moved people from having to be as close to major cities. A lot of, I don't know what the percentage, but I'm guessing 30, 40% of the workforce is working 100% remote. And they have the opportunity now to not be in a busy city. And a lot of them want to get away from that. And that is probably our most common end buyer right now. People just looking for like a piece of land for the weekend. But a lot of people are trying to actually move to rural America to kind of get out of the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, and before we get into that, let's kind of discuss the general type of land that we buy for someone who doesn't know, because that matters when we talk about
Yeah.
who we're selling it to, who buys it at the end. Let's talk about the actual type of land we were buying, Ron.
Yeah, so I mean, we buy anything from 2 to 500 acres of vacant rural land, typically 2 to 3 counties removed, like I said before, from a major city. That's kind of our bread and butter. It's not one county removed where we're kind of suburban area. It's removed from even the suburbs of major cities. So yeah, 2 to 500 acres is probably our bread and butter. Obviously, that's a huge acreage spread, but that's what we do. Like we do a high volume of or a random amount of acres. And so yeah, 2 to 3 hours removed from big cities, I think is our most typical piece of land in.
Yeah, and like Ron said, we're actually buying it. So for those coming in who are we get a lot of wholesalers in here converting to land. For those who are newer in our audience and come from a wholesaling knowledge background, we're actually buying it and putting it on the market. So it gives us the marketing flexibility to really sell it whoever. So we can sell it to an end customer, an end consumer instead of an investor, or like wholesalers are looking for investors a lot of times, Ron, or builders, et cetera. But this gives us the flexibility to put it and market it in front of the end users and
Yep.
max out the market rate, the max out the price that we're selling it for a lot of times, which is like 90, 95%. We like to sell it under market value because then it allows us to turn it quick, take that $50,000 of profit, put it into another deal, turn it quick, do the same thing over 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year, and quadruple your money. And I think wholesaling has its obstacles with vacant land like this, especially in rural America, Ron, because it's hard to get investors and it's hard to get buyers lists and things like that. So I think that possesses its own set of challenges. Wholesaling with info lots is a little bit easier because there's investors buying info lots around the country, Ron. But what I wanted to get to is this gives us marketing flexibility to put it on the MLS and realtor.com and Zillow and all those and land.com, Ron. And that pretty much caters us to being able to sell it to the end user, the end consumer.
Yeah, and it's not obviously if you're trying to wholesale land, like it is difficult to do because you cannot market the same avenues. It's not easy to just get a buyer's list because we're not selling to developers. We're selling to end buyers. There's no middle person between us and the end buyer more times than not. So it is difficult to wholesale. That's why we love this business model so much and we bring a ton of value to the sellers because we're able to buy and get the seller's cash within 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean that's a basis of the type of land we have. I think we gave them kind of a good picture of that, Dan.
Awesome. So let's talk about the type of people you did a little bit, but who's actually buying our land, Ron? Let's talk about them a little bit. Do we actually have any investors buying? Do we have any builders buying? Like what does our portfolio look like
Yeah.
of the people we've sold it to?
Yeah, so builders typically aren't going to want land 2, 3 counties removed from main cities. It's going to be end buyers, like I said. It's going to be people looking for their hunting spot on the weekends, whether it's 20, 30 acres. That's a lot of our bigger parcels. Is people maybe looking to put a small cabin and hunt on the property once a month, twice a month, 5 times a year, whatever it is. That's a very very typical end buyer for our bigger pieces of land. But like you said, like we're not selling to developers. Can you recall any investors or develop? I really can't in term maybe investors in terms of long term, like I'm going to hold this land, but not investors in terms of like I'm going to go build a subdivision or develop a
That's a
subdivision.
good point. We do have people who are buying and holding land. Like they're like, "Oh, I want this. This is a nice property. We can get it at a good price from them, and they'll hold it forever." But that's an individual putting 50 grand to a property for themselves, not like a big scale. The only investors that we really sell to are we've sold to, Ron. I remember we've had some commercial properties in the past, and people
Mm.
were looking to put like storage units and things like that. I think a investor ended up buying a commercial. It was right. I think it was inside city limits too, like an industrial commercial zoned piece of land, Ron. That's really the only time we've sold to investors for the most part, but that's our business model. There are multiple niches and business models within land itself.
Yeah, I think just yeah, and the commercial property is not like our bread and butter, without a doubt, because that was closer to a city, and it was just a property that we ran into and made some decent money on a commercial property. But that being said, Dan, like trying to think, like a lot of people, I just this desirability, and I hear maybe it's because I'm in land and that's our business is land. I hear it more, or maybe like it just comes across more. But I think more people, like a higher percentage of America, wants to own land now more than they did 5 years ago, without a doubt, 10 years ago. And the reality of it is most of the country cannot afford land right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So they're looking for land 2, 3 counties removed, or they can get a pretty affordable 5, 10 acres for 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, $50,000, opposed to in the city, you're right near a city, you're going to have more restrictions, and then you're going to pay $200,000 for 2 acres. What are your thoughts on that, Dan? I just think a lot of people want to own land. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm biased.
No, it's true, and I think a combination of, like, they look at it like it is a personal investment for themselves, which it is, and they get to use it. So maybe like you said, they live in Atlanta, they buy a $50,000 piece of property, they know that's gonna appreciate over time in that area, and they also can use it with their family now on the weekends or build a house or put a cabin on it or whatever it is. There are a ton of land buyers out there with that kind of mindset, Ron. And I think the the risk of buying land is really, really low. And I think that's why the demand's so high is because these people, it is an investment for these people. It's better than just sitting cash in your bank. So
Mm,
it's an investment. It's a safe investment. They can buy a nice piece of land. And then also, Ron mentioned the restrictions. Like if you want to own, and I don't know how many of our audience are actually land owners, Ron, but say you had 100 acres or say you had 10 acres, Ron, within 20 minutes of the city, but all you could do is camp there. And you can't really drop it just a cabin on with little restrictions or anything. But you all you can really do is camp or build a stick built house, Ron. Or you have that same 5, 10 acres, an hour away, and you can do anything you want on that
mm.
land. You can drop any sort of cabin, very little restrictions. You can hunt on that land. You can light fireworks on that land. You're not going to have anyone knocking on your door or anything like the restriction things. As soon as we start putting restrictions on our properties and like in HOAs and all these other things, the buyer pool drops 70%. And it's just a fact. The lower restrictions you have, the more amount of people that are going to be interested and attracted to that property because of that, because they want the flexibility to do what they want. They want the freedom to do what they don't want. They don't want some subdivision telling them what they can and can't put on. Oh, you can't even park a boat on this piece of property. The boat needs to go under a, garage or something. There's just so many restrictions, Ron.
Yeah, that's a good example, Dan. Yeah, I mean, without a
I'm
doubt,
thinking
like
of
you,
where I live here. There's
yeah,
there's a lot of restrictions where I live here, and obviously I'm in a city,
yeah.
but it's funny because you can park 3 boats in your front yard, and these people have all these boats in their front yard, but they can't, like, do certain things either, and it's like it just makes no sense because they park in all these boats, and you can't even put, like, a camper on a property.
Yeah, and like the thing about it, guys, and this will be kind of an educational part. The thing about it is, so there's county restrictions and there's city restrictions. Within a county that has a really big city in it, those county restrictions are going to be pretty high. If you go out into rural America where you're 2 counties removed from any city that is a decent sized city, you're going to probably just have county restrictions. Maybe there's tiny little cities in there that don't allow mobile homes or something like that. But the county as a whole is going to have very few restrictions because they want more people there. They don't want to restrict the land. They want people to come in, subdivide the land, come in, put mobile homes on land, come in, build trailer parks, whatever it is. They want people to be able to do what they want. And having lower restrictions, like Daniel said, is going to entice more people to be in those rural counties. And that's what we're moving towards, Dan. Like people aren't as opposed to living in a mobile home now as they were 10, 15 years ago. And it sounds good to be outside the city like that. So, yeah, I mean, those lower restrictions, those county restrictions that are so few and far between when you're 3 counties removed from a main city is very desirable for a lot of people. You can shoot guns, you can do whatever you want on the property, even if you're only there 3, 4, 6 times a year.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I'm curious to see because this depends on where you are in the country you're on, but mobile homes where we are in the markets we're in are popular. And it might not be like that everywhere. They're really, really popular where we're at, so we always wanna make sure mobile homes are allowed because I'm just curious, like, what's the percentage of people in America that live in mobile homes? It's much higher than people think, I'm telling you. Start going out to rural America and, like, just even around me here, Ron, you look at these mobile home parks, I bet you
Yeah.
it's 30% of the population in mobile homes around here, 20% of the population. And you start getting out there on it's just like people want an easy, affordable way to live, and that's not going to go away. And a mobile homes want a solution for that. Maybe it's going to change in from a mobile home to a modular home here soon, and the tide will swing. But people need affordable places to live. And in the markets we're in, Ron, allowing mobile homes is very important to be able to sell our land for more money really quickly.
Yeah. And that's like the biggest turnoff for us, Dan. I think on like a 1.5 to 2.5 acre piece of land, maybe even go up to 5 acres. Like if they don't allow mobile homes where we're trying to buy property and it's not in some really nice community or something like that, like you cannot buy those properties because every single end buyer is going to want to put a mobile home. It's not like some are going to want to put a mobile home and the others, everyone is going to want to put a mobile home on that piece of land that's under 3 acres, and like buying those are the piece of land where it's hard to find an end buyer. If they have those mobile home restrictions on a 3 acre piece of land, it is not fun to try to sell those. It is very, very difficult to get people to put a couple $100,000 into building a stick built house in rural America.
And that's the thing, like right now with building costs in rural America, and you're not in some city where you can sell a house for $1 million, like the building costs are going to be more than the actual house is worth.
Every time.
9 times out of 10. Yeah. Almost every time, I think. And that's the thing. Like, are people going to build a stick built house when material and labor and everything is so expensive right now? It makes sense in these hot markets around where you can turn around and sell a 2,000 square foot place in a nice subdivision for, 750 grand or so.
Mm,
But you're starting to sell there's places where like Cincinnati, Ron, there's a lot of cheap areas around Cincinnati, and you can sell literally a 1,500 square foot house for $200,000. Like you can find that all over Cincinnati, and it's just crazy that you can't build a 1,500 square foot house for $200,000. So
no.
like a builder's not going to be attracted to that area because there's no profit. Rather than they can build the same house in an A area, Ron, and sell it for 550, 700 grand, whatever it is in a class A area versus the other alternatives, Ron. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's not going to attract anyone. Did you have any more topics you want to get through here, Dan?
No. What do you want to add?
No, I think that's good. And like the reality is, guys, like if you find low restriction land in rural America, there will be buyers. Prices may fluctuate. You might have to be a little under market value if you're in a slower area. But there are so many counties, three counties removed from big cities that are just booming with buyers looking to be there. And those counties aren't going to feel like they're 3 counties removed in a couple years, 5, 10 years. You look at like the counties around Nashville, Dan, that are big now. Like their counties Murfreesboro, I think, 2 counties removed from Nashville. Like these counties feel like big cities now,
Exactly. And there's developing areas. It's like anything, Ron. Every We have an economy as a whole, Ron, as the United States, and then every market has its own economy as well, and its own growth and its own trajectory. And a lot of that honestly becomes like the quite frankly, right now, the areas that are growing rapidly, Ron, are the areas with less government restrictions, just period. After COVID, people kind of moved to less restricted areas, less taxed areas, more affordable areas. And that's kind of the route things go. But things come in tides, Ron. Things come and go as time goes on. And the most important thing here is land is always going to appreciate. And I think if you buy in the right areas, you're always in a good spot.
for sure.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.